All right, guys. So I'm gonna react to this video from Jubilee, which is like a super woke YouTube channel. Okay, I don't know if you guys ever seen it. It's pretty popular to make reaction videos to their content because again, their content is like really woke, and it's supposed to be like candid conversations about like tough questions. A lot of questions involve like race topic, like social issues, stuff like that, right? So this one is do all black men think the same? Okay, that's what the title is, and they're gonna go through a series of questions asking black men about certain issues, right, and certain topics. Now, the beginning of this video, the topics were a little bit more probably not appropriate for my YouTube channel, but some later topics they talked about were definitely, I feel like, related to what we talk about in this channel. So I'm going to react to the questions that they ask and chime in with my opinion on the questions and topics.
The N-word should stop being used by all races. 3, 2, 1, go.
That's hard.
I'm going to tell you something. This is how I feel about this. I don't know if it should be banned, right? Like, I'm not for banning stuff. Like, I don't like banning words or things like that. Like, I'm really not for banning stuff, okay? And I'm not for banning the N-word. And I also don't believe in the ownership of words and language, right? I believe that people can freely say whatever they want, right? Like, I believe in freedom of speech. Okay, like one group of people cannot just own a word and be like, oh, well, only we can say this word. Now, I get the history of the N-word. I understand that, you know, black people use a derogatory term and they made it their own and blah, blah, blah. I get it. I 100% get it. But I just feel like to be consistent, if me as a black person, if I'm going to use the N-word, then because of my principles and the things I believe in regarding free speech, like, I'm not going to get mad if somebody else use it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to be mad because at the end of the day, I don't believe in policing language, right? I don't believe in policing speech. Even if I might not agree that they should use the term, that doesn't mean that I'm going to try to police it, right? I'm not going to try to police it. But at the same time, if you do want to ban the word, right, then everybody has to be banned from using it, okay? Because if the word is that bad that certain groups of people can't use it, then everybody should not be able to use it, okay? The word is just bad, period, okay? So, you know, listen, man, here's the thing. You know, they call it the N-word, but, I mean, fundamentally, the N-word with an A and the N-word with an ER are two different words, in my opinion. They just are. They're used in way different contexts, okay? The N-word with an A is commonly used as a term of endearment. It just is, right? And I do believe that regardless of people's skin color, they do have the ability to use that word with the intent of endearment. Okay? I mean, it's not the N-word with an ER, which is clearly a hateful slur, right? Everybody knows what the intent is when you use that word. But the intent is different with the A. So, I mean, listen, I'm not advocating for people to go out there and use the N-word. I'm just saying, like, my logic on the word is that either everybody can use it or nobody can use it. And that's just not the N-word. That's all words, right? All words. I feel like that's what's fair.
I just think the N-word, when you look at the root of the word, even slaves would use it to describe other black people when accepting their supposed oppression. So I just think when I think about that, I don't think you can do anything to erase the history and the blood that's been shed on that word. There are so many people who the last thing they heard was the N-word as they were being murdered. So
yeah, but see, what I don't understand is that's the N-word with hard ER, right? Like, you're not talking about the N-word with an A, which is the word that everybody uses. You're talking about apples and oranges, in my opinion, when you say stuff like this.
So when I think about that, yes, I think the word should stop being used.
Personally, me, I feel like it kind of starts with us. The fact that we make it so cool within music and within like entertainment that it lets other people feel like they have a pass or that it's okay because my favorite rapper said it, or I heard it here, or you guys say it all the time. How come I can't say it? But at the end of the day, it's black culture pain. And if anyone's going to be using it, it should only be us. And that's it.
You can't really own a word. I think, we can own it in the sense where it's a black cultural thing, but the idea where we kind of make it out to where we say like, oh, other people can't say it. I think that's more of like a insecurity within the black culture of not being able to hold power, because historically, it's like, right, historically, black people didn't have as much power. So we're trying to hold on to literally a word that only has meaning because we add meaning to it.
Ding, 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 ding. This man is smart, okay? This man is smart. Because holding on to the N-word and saying, oh, only we can use this word because if you use it, this offends us. You think you're holding on to power, but what you're really holding on to is weakness, okay? Because let's be real. White people do not react to being called racial slurs the same way black people do, right? Black people act a fool when you say a racial slur. White people, a lot of them, some of them might get mad, but I feel like it's like, whatever, right? Like, I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could be generalizing. But in my opinion, that to me unconsciously reflects a power dynamic to a certain extent when it comes to that word. I would argue that if you just let the word go, then you take all the power away from it. Because it's like, oh, I don't care if you say it. You're not hurting me. You don't have the power to hurt me by saying a word. You see what I'm saying? Words don't hurt me. If I know that I can hurt you with a word, that means I have power over you. I control you. I can get a reaction out of you simply from saying a word. You don't want people to have that much power over you.
I mean, respectfully, I ain't trying to hear that, right? Like, I feel like the only reason it's policed so much, and I feel like the only reason we even have like this debate or this debacle over whether we can use it or not is because we're black people. And I'm not one of those people that think everything is racist and all that, but in this specific instance, right? In several instances, women in many instances have reclaimed the word bitch to be a term of endearment. There are, in the 90s, there was heavier women reclaimed the word fat, obviously respelling and things like that. But I feel like in those instances, nobody bats an eye. Why is that understood? But with this, it's so confusing. Like, oh, I don't know if like, when there are.
Is there a debate around whether or not only women can call each other the B word? I don't know, right? Like, if a man calls a woman a B word, I'm definitely automatically assuming that it's in a derogatory way. But I guess women have kind of changed the B word to have its own term of endearment, right? Kind of like the N word. That's actually a pretty interesting observation. I actually really like that argument.
Boundary set. And that word is one of the boundaries that I think we have respectfully and rightfully set up for ourselves. So I don't want to, I'm not trying to hear the like, if we use it, why can't it? We do that all the time with a bunch of different things. And I don't think this should be one of the areas where we're like, yeah, let everybody, I'm not.
Well, I think it goes back to where you're saying boundaries. Because when you break down to inner communities where, blacks and Asians, blacks and whites in hip hop culture, where there's like, it's 5 group of friends and their black friends don't care. They're like, say it. Like
facts.
that happens. So
That's
it's like,
facts.
we're having this broad conversation and, I know all of us aren't trying to be the spokespeople for black people, right? But it's like, it's such a convoluted, I guess, topic where it's like the expectations aren't clear to people depending where you're at. If you're on the East Coast, West Coast, like it's very unclear. That's what I think. I'm not arguing whether or not it's okay to say it or whether white people should say it. I'm just saying if we don't want white people to say it, I think it needs to be very clear. And I think even in fact in this new age of our culture, I think we're seeing more people saying we don't want white people to say it.
Homophobia is a big issue in the black community. 3, 2, 1, go.
It depends on what you define as homophobia, okay? Because I think the left defines homophobia as, well, if you just don't agree with the lifestyle and if you don't agree that certain people can have special rights, then you're homophobic. I literally think that's the way that the left defines it, right? If that's the way that the left defines it, then yes, the black community is homophobic, okay? But if homophobia is defined the way I think it's supposed to be defined, which is, the fear of gay people, right? Not a disagreement with their lifestyle, but a legitimate fear of them, okay? Or homophobic relationships, whatever you want to call it. Like, then no, they're not homophobic, okay? Just because you're religious and you disagree with somebody's lifestyle doesn't mean that you are afraid of that person, that you have a fear of that person. That's what a phobia is. A phobia is a fear, okay? And like I said, the left has defined a phobia as, well, if you disagree with the lifestyle and you don't want these people to have special rights, then you're homophobic. Okay, so it purely depends on how you define what homophobia is.
A lot of us black men, we will rather be friends with the homie that, probably has rape attached to his name than the homie that's part of the LGBTQ plus community. And I think that that's something that
I don't know about that one, bro. I don't know about that one, bro. I'm not sure if I'm hanging out with any dudes that's been accused of stuff like that. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. Not in that situation, bro. Maybe some other dudes might, but I'm not hanging around anybody with a record of something like that. Like, actually convicted. Put it that way. If you've been convicted, probably not hanging around with you like that. Okay? Just because. Not a good look.
that, we got to work on as people, because my thing is, I don't understand the whole big phobia of, okay, what he decides to do in his free time or behind closed doors, why does that bother you so much? Why does that affect you? Like, why do you feel like it's such like the...
Most people are not affected by it. Most people don't care. I think what most people care about is society as a whole having to accommodate people to a point where it's like everybody else is being inconvenienced because of a very small group of people. I think that's what the real issue is. The issue is not about their lifestyles. I don't care. I'm not, me personally, I don't speak for myself, but I don't care. Okay, I don't care what you do. It's about imposing and using your status to say, well, I deserve this, I deserve that, right? I have to get this, I have to get that, at the cost of other people's society, at the cost of the traditional society that we have, okay?
Scum of the earth.
And I also think it comes from religion, because I don't want to get too controversial with that, but people are very religious, especially in the black community, Christians. And when you talk about the Bible, they say, homosexuality is a sin. So a lot of people have that ingrained in their mind. This is absolutely not right. And for a lot of people too, when they see a man, they want to see a manly man, and they associate that with being straight.
Heterosexual men have a fear that homosexual men will treat them how they treat women, if that makes sense. And so they're afraid of that treatment. And I'm on somewhat agree, because I'm rather torn. I think I've lived a life where I'm around very open-minded, inclusive people. So I'm not sure how big of an issue it is in the community, but I know that in the Black church sphere, homosexuality is often made out to be the worst thing that you can be. There's almost nothing worse than being gay. And I think that's also where some of the homophobia comes from. We like to ignore all the other sins, all the other things that the Bible outlines that are not, holy. And then we just take homosexuality and we make it the worst. Granted, the Bible says it's an abomination, I get that, but the Bible says any sin will send you to hell, so.
You can't be pro-black and date a white person. 3, 2, 1, go.
I think.
Oof. This is a good one. You can't be pro-black and date a white person. Well, again, what do you define as pro-black? Okay, because if you define pro-black as being a black nationalist, right, then probably not. Okay? If you define pro-black as being one of these Pan-African people, some of these people like Dr. Umar, who think that pro-black means you got to procreate with black people, everything you do is centered around black people, like, you know, you basically live your life for black people, right? You just want to be involved with black people. Obviously, if that's what you define as pro-black, then obviously not. But I don't know, if you define pro-black as, I don't know, something else, right? In the sense that maybe you define it as, you know, just love for your community in general, okay? And just love for family, right? Setting a good example for other black people, right? Maybe mentoring black people, just being involved in the community and wanting to see the well-being of black people. If you define it that way without it having some type of tribal kind of lens to it, right? Then yes, you can date a white person, right? I don't think that goes against that. Again, I mean, it really matters in regards to how people think about your kids, okay? Because again, you can be pro-black by just helping your community, in which that point, it doesn't matter who your spouse is. That shouldn't be an issue. The issue really comes up when it comes to kids. Are you technically producing black children, right? Are you reproducing? Are you increasing the black population? That's how some people define pro-black. And again, if that's the way you define it, then obviously not. But if that's not the way you define it, if it's not about who you procreate with, then sure, you can date a white person. Okay? I mean, whoever I procreate with, because of our culture norms, they're going to be considered black anyways. So I really don't see how that would be anti-black. And again, I want these people that's about freedom. You can marry who you want to marry, right? Marry whoever you want, even if it's outside your race. Now, if you're married in your race and you're openly expressed, you know what, I only want to marry people in my race, it doesn't matter what race you are. I'm cool with that too, right? Some people say, oh, that's racist. No, it's not. You are allowed to have a sexual preference based off race. Like, that's not racist. Okay, so that's my 2 cents.
I think really the issue with this statement is, for me, if you are a stand-up person and you stand up on your morals and your character, it doesn't matter who you date. And I think a lot of the issue is a lot of people get into, you know, interracial relationships, or they date white people and they forget who they are. And if you are pro-black, it doesn't matter if you're dating a black person, a white person, because you can date a white woman and a black woman and still not even be for the cause. So I really think it's up to the person if they stand on their morals or not.
I agree to a certain extent, but personally me, I feel like if you're pro-black, you're pro-black for everything. Like, you're for the advancement of the race, you're for businesses, you're for everything black. So it's kind of hard for me to understand how someone can be pro-black and want so much for, you know, the black culture and the black race, and then they're in a relationship with someone that doesn't represent that, you know.
So are you saying
Yeah, but in what way are you talking about though, right? Like, if that spouse, right, let's say I marry somebody that's white, and if this white person is involved in the community, if they're mentoring, if they're donating, if they're financially supporting the community because they want to see the advancement of black people, even if they're white, wouldn't that make them pro-black as a white person? Okay? And wouldn't that make you pro-black for marrying a person like that? Versus, again, somebody that, let's say I married a black woman and we just decide that, you know what, we're not going to have any involvement with black people. Okay? We don't care about what happens to the black community. At that point, would you still be considered pro-black just because you are procreating with a black person if you don't have any real involvement? Again, this not really buying that argument.
that if you are black and you're pro-black, you cannot act on attraction to someone from another race?
Personally, I'm not pro-black, but in my mindset, like, I'm saying if you're pro-black, you wouldn't find someone that's not black attractive to me. Not saying attractive, but you wouldn't even want to cross that line and even engage
Bro,
in
like, what
a
are you talking
relationship
about?
with them. You can have, like, you know, like lust, like, hey, you know, she's an attractive white woman, but ideally, you want black kids, you want black family, you want your lineage to carry on.
I don't know. I feel like the question in itself kind of like low-key negates the demographics of the country. I mean, black folks make up 13% of the country, roughly, and a lot of the time we live in concentrations. So, you know what I'm saying? If you in Iowa, it's gonna be a little tough to find you like a black woman, especially somebody that might identify as pro-black with you. So I think it depends on what you do, not who you decide to be with.
My first response to that is like, what's the point of looking at people differently? It's like we get upset that people do it to us in generally, like looking at black people and judging them and stereotyping them and making assumptions about them. It's like, so on the flip side, why should we be doing that to other people regardless of who, you know, they're in a relationship, depending on the color of their skin?
I'm not gonna lie, I do. Like I look at people differently based on who they marry. Because dating, you know, you can be dating for fun. I feel like I look at people different based on who they marry. Like Jordan Peele, Childish Gambino, I feel like I can look at them and be like, I'm not looking down on them. I don't think of them negatively, but I'm like, oh, I see. And like, oh, okay, I see. Like, because like black men that date white women, there's something different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Like what? What's different? Oh, they don't act black enough for you? They're less black because they date white women?
But you know what it is. Like oh, okay, Childish Gambino, I can see that. Jordan Peele, okay, I can see that. I can't think of another example, but I feel like I can tell, like, okay, like that's cool, you know, I'm happy, you happy. It's no disrespect to them, but I see the difference.
I prefer.
All right, so I'm not gonna get into this one, but yeah, I want to react to that. I thought there was some interesting questions. I'll probably do more reactions to this stuff because again, some of these questions are actually pretty interesting topics. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.